All right. Main topic, you guys. I'm excited about this one. We are talking about video game music. It's something I love a lot. It's one of my favorite parts of playing video games. Is I listen to video game soundtracks all the time, and I just love it when it just works so well. When a game uses a soundtrack as it's always cliche to say it, but the soundtrack is a character almost. The music just becomes part of the game, and there are a lot of examples of that. So all of us have kind of put together a list of video games soundtracks and songs that we like a lot, and we're gonna go through them. Jacob, why don't you start?
Yeah, I was so bad at this because not only can I not pick a single song out of the soundtrack, I can't pick a single soundtrack out of a franchise.
Yeah.
So Nier has a really good soundtrack. I'm talking about the original Nier.
Right.
So you know how some games or some other soundtracks, they'll do soundtracks that are in a made-up language. I think Nier does that really well. It has a really good kind of made-up language. And it's also just really beautiful. A song that I really like from the original Nier is called Wretched Automatons. And it starts when you go into a factory. And it starts out very mechanical, hammering metal and clanking. And then it kind of builds and it turns into kind of a beat, and then the music comes in, and it's really beautiful, and it's a great kind of atmospheric type thing because you go into the factory and the clanking of the machinery fits because you're in a factory, and then the song comes on. That's really good. And something that Nier does really well is that in Nier Automata they don't really reuse, but they incorporate a lot of the themes and melodies and motifs from the first game into songs from Nier Automata. So Wretched Machines reuses a lot of the motifs and kind of melodies from the first Nier. And that's really interesting.
So it's a collective tissue between the two games. So, yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah. So if you play the first Nier and you're playing through Nier Automata, you're like, oh, hey, it's that song. And you get all warm and fuzzy inside. Another song I really like from Automata, which I didn't want to play because it's kind of spoilers, but it's the credit song. Basically, there's a part where the whole development team joins in singing, and it's really beautiful.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And then I also really like in the first Nier, when you get to the village, there's this lady called Devila who's playing on her little lute, and you go up to her and she starts singing her song, and you just kind of stand there because it's really beautiful. And it's this very kind of beautiful rustic village. And it's very kind of Shadow of Colossus, where everything's really washed out. So it's beautiful. And I really like that soundtrack a lot. Rockstar also does really good soundtracks. I'm a sucker for spaghetti westerns, and so of course Red Dead Redemption has a really great soundtrack. Triggernometry is
That's all very cowboy to me.
Yeah. I think it's the song that plays when you're like on horseback and you're just in like a gunfight, and like it's very fitting. It's just a great song to like. You feel like
shoot things.
Yeah, you feel like a badass.
You just feel awesome. Very good at that.
And then you guys have played Red Dead, right?
Oh,
yeah.
Not.
Well, he has not, but
Okay.
I have.
Well, you know the part where after you confront, I think his name is Butch, and you go to when that song comes on called Compass. I just like turned down like the environmental sound and just had that song playing.
Yeah,
that was a really good song.
that is cool. I feel like with a western like that, it's very necessary to have the music like put you in the mood for that.
Yeah, exactly. And the song is very like lyrically is very rewarding because your character's been moving to trying to do be rewarded for the thing that he has to do, and he finally gets it, and that song plays, and it's very fitting, I think.
That's
lyrically.
awesome. That's awesome.
Now, you guys have been playing Persona 5, so you can attest to how good Shoji Meguro is as a composer. And he's done the music for all the Persona games as well as a lot of the SMT games. So Persona 3, it's hard for me to pick like my favorites between like Persona 3, 4, and 5 because they're all very different. Persona 3's is like very kind of like hip hop inspired.
Okay.
Persona 4 kind of has like an old school pop sort of theme going for it, and Persona 5 is obviously like acid jazz and funk.
Yeah.
And so like Persona 3 being the first one, it kind of left like the most impact on me. Just the battle theme is called Mass Destruction. It has this Japanese like rapper called Lotus Juice. And it's amazing.
Great
like,
name.
Yeah, I mean,
That's him.
yeah. If you're gonna play like a 90-hour RPG, like you want the battle theme that you're gonna hear a lot to be really good. Mass Destruction it's a good song.
That's very interesting to me that it was like that they're different styles. I kind of didn't know that. I've seen a lot of Persona 4, and obviously I've played like a lot of Persona 5 now, so that's two I know the most. But yeah, that is really cool.
Yeah, and then the final battle theme, again, it's kind of spoilers. That's also for Persona 3. It's probably my favorite like final boss theme out of all the Persona games. And then with Persona 5, you guys haven't gotten to that part yet, I know, but there's a song called Rivers in the Desert, and it does an excellent thing that I really like that's used in games where it rewards you with lyrics, where you go through the first phase and it's just instrumental, and then the second phase comes in and it adds the lyrics.
That's cool.
And it's a really good feeling because you're just like, yes! And
you just like
you get
getting
into
more
it.
and more of it, yeah.
Yeah. And I think my favorite Persona 5 song is Layer Cake. It's the song that plays when you go into the gun shop. And it's like really spooky and kind of
I like that a
instrumental.
lot too, yeah.
And then it just breaks out into funk. It's really good.
There's a way, kind of peace now, face reality, never be charity. The enemy you're fighting covers all society. Damn right, mommy's not here, gonna fight all night. Right here, shadow 10 o'clock direction. Seize the moment, destroy the nation. You run slow motion, give me motivation. Breathe out now, and then on arrival. Round up around, spit out all over. Rhyme like a rolling stone, coming in the crowd. Watch out the moon, they diss too loud. This won't this sound and bombs whole ground. So round up, don't ease your pace, cause enemies brutal. Moment of truth, there ain't no truth. You're the only one world, one law. But the battle goes on, shadows on mass destruction.
Oh yeah, down, 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 baby, baby, down, 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 down. Oh yeah, down, 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 baby, baby, down, 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 down. Oh yeah, down, 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 baby, baby, down, down.
Supergiant games, they also have phenomenal soundtracks. They're all different, kind of like the Persona ones. Bastion was the first one I played, so that is kind of like a Western styled soundtrack. So of course I'd like it, but there's lots of great tracks off of that. But talking about how soundtracks can really make a scene, like song selection. There's a song in Bastion called "Build That Wall," and if you ever played or seen anything of the game Bastion, there's a kind of like a narrator. He has like an old gruff Western voice.
I love that narrator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's great.
Really cool.
So when you get to this area, there's no enemies. It's just the narrator, and then the song is playing, and it's being played by a character who's in like the kind of like area, and you're kind of like working your way to her to talk to her, and it's really good. And lyrically, it also like relates to her character, and it's just kind of like this very solemn acoustic song, and it's done really well, and like it really leaves you with like a really kind of like heavy sort of heart, coupled with like what the guy is saying, because Bastion is a really kind of depressing game, because because it's like the apocalypse happened, so everyone's dead, and it's kind of there's other stuff in there too, and it's kind of learning to accept the past and then discard it and move on with your life. So it's really powerful.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then Pyre also has a really good soundtrack too.
And then all three of those games are like very identifiable from their music.
Yeah, honestly, because like for me at least, beating those games, like the reward for beating those games is getting to hear the credits song, because they're all amazing.
I should probably beat one of those games to get to hear that credits song.
Dig my hole, you build a wall. I dig my hole, you build a wall. One day that wall is gonna fall. Gonna build that city on a hill. That city on a hill. Someday those tears are gonna spill. So build that wall and build it strong, 'cause we'll be there for too long. Gonna build that wall up to the...
And then Silent Hill, I mean, I love Silent Hill a lot. I mean, as you can see, obviously, music really really affects, what my favorite games are. And so, my favorite game series also usually have my favorite, soundtracks. Yeah. Silent Hill is interesting because the songs can kind of be broken up into three different kind of categories. So the first category is the really dark, ominous, like industrial electronic ambient music. And that's really, Silent Hill 1 is a great example of that, because I mean, even like it's a PS1 game, but even listening to it, it terrifies me. It's
unsettling, yeah.
Yeah, it's
that with the fog and everything else.
Yeah,
too.
it's one of the scariest soundtracks I've ever heard in anything. And even playing like Silent Hill 1, again, it's on the PlayStation 1, so like everything's all like blocky, but it holds up well because the music just like makes that atmosphere. And there's even cool parts that I didn't notice before listening to the soundtrack, but like stuff that I thought the enemies were making, like horrible noises, was actually in the soundtrack. And then another category is kind of like the very soft, relaxing kind of ambient music. I think Silent Hill 2 has a lot of good examples of that, where it's very chill and relaxing, and it kind of makes you feel kind of sad, but also kind of at ease a little bit.
Yeah.
And that really fits in Silent Hill 2 because it's also about like loss and grief. And
I think it's cool how much like Silent Hill kind of like, in comparison to like Persona and all these are kind of like in your face with the music or whatever, like Silent Hill's a lot more like just in the background, but it makes them like,
and then the third category is the kind of like hard rock kind of, or like classic kind of hard rock sound Akira Yamaoka does for like the intros and the credit songs. They really fit well, and I think there's actually like he tours with his band and plays those songs.
That's interesting.
So it's really cool. I think my favorite song is called Hometown. It's the credit song from Silent Hill 3, and it's a little different. The lead singer, for most of those songs, like the lead singer is this lady named Mary Elizabeth McGlynn, and she kind of has like this very like, powerful rocker's voice. But in this song, it's this guy. He has a very baritone voice, and it's really solemn, and like knowing the story of Silent Hill 3, it fits really well. And it ties back to Silent Hill 1 too. So.
Torture souls, so outrageous the toll. You can lose all you have. He refused to give in to the town that takes all. Survive. Must have the will. This movie doesn't end the way we want all the time. Then he shouts at the moon, she's gone, and fear has overcome. He was walking the mile.
Cool.
And then a few honorable mentions. I love Life is Beautiful from Deadly Premonition. That's that guitar song with the whistle.
Yeah. Oh, it's so funny.
Yeah. Well, they use that song in the beginning where the main character goes to this hotel and he's sitting at this long, like this huge table at opposite ends of like the hotel manager, and they're just like screaming at each other from across the table.
It just keeps getting louder
and the music
louder.
just keeps getting louder and louder.
It's so great.
Jet Set Radio has a very famous soundtrack.
Iconic,
It's and even like I think it holds up. It's even like pretty creative and interesting today. Bully has a really good soundtrack. Going back to Rockstar, theirs is kind of like almost like a punk kind of like soundtrack in a way.
I never played Bully, but I know people liked it a lot.
Yeah, the music is really solid in that. And then like Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne, just going back to Shoji Meguro real quick. If you ever listen, so SMT Nocturne has probably the coolest like JRPG battle theme, because it's probably the only battle theme I know that has like harsh vocals, like screamed vocals in it.
Like in the battle.
Yeah. I can't remember what it is. It's like another god rejected. He's just like screaming that into the microphone.
There was that Final Fantasy X at the very end that came in with the like really bad like heavy metal.
Oh no, this is called it's like Fierce Battle. It's really good. Yeah, and like Shoji Meguro does great soundtracks. Yeah. That's about it. I know I went on for quite a long time.
No, you have a much better and more interesting list than us. I will go with mine, but I'm not as interesting. Mine's not nearly as interesting. I tried to go mostly with soundtracks for games that I feel like, fit with the game so much and just make I remember the experience of playing it with the game. Like, not necessarily my favorite soundtracks on their own, but they just go. And one of the first ones was Fire Emblem. Something like the Fire Emblem soundtrack, they do such a good job of like each like part of the game, like when you're in battle, like the battle music, it feels like it's like really high, like like fast, and it's very JRPG-ish, but it kind of stands out on its own, and it like gets you in the middle of battle. But then like when you're in the menu screens, like Jeff has played a lot of Fire Emblem games or whatever, even just the simple little things like that, you're in a menu screen of Fire Emblem when that music's playing. It's something about it just feels, everything feels right with that. And then even though Fire Emblem stories are usually kind of crap, the music alone makes this probably the writing's not great scene feel emotional just because the music is just so good at conveying that. So yeah, Fire Emblem, very iconic for me when it comes to like the JRPGs I like to play. Another one is The Witcher 3. So much of like I could like probably talk forever about The Witcher 3 just in general, and how what makes that world so cool is that it has like a lot of the trappings of a fantasy game or a fantasy story and everything that you would expect from like the European like based fantasy that we know, but especially playing it from an American who doesn't know much about Polish culture. It's like your traditional fantasy story, but everything's just a little bit different because it's based on like Polish fairy tales and Polish like history and stuff. So everything's like a little foreign in a cool way, in the coolest possible way. And I feel like that is shown so much in the soundtrack because it has like some of your normal like, oh, it's a fantasy thing, so here's like the instruments you would know for that. But then it also like they have these guttural screams sometimes, and they have like these weird like really fast like bagpipe things and weird like banjo-ish sounding things, but not like in a southern way. It's very interesting, and just all these like sounds and instruments that you never hear in like a Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings or these type of things, and it makes that world, it fits with that world so well. And whether it's like the emotional moments or it's like fast battle, it does both of it like really well.
But does it have a hurdy-gurdy?
It might have a hurdy-gurdy, Jeff. You never know. the next one for me is Ori and the Blind Forest. This game immediately, like, going into this game, like, I had seen the art style and everything. That's the first thing that jumps out to you, is this game is just absolutely gorgeous. But I did not really expect going in for the soundtrack is almost just as iconic for me as the visuals. And it's really cool because in a lot of ways it sounds almost like a Disney movie or something. Like kind of like a Pocahontas type Disney movie. It's very like whimsical and like, you know, in the jungle and doing all this stuff or whatever. But it has that at times where it's like this orchestral swell and it comes up in the middle of like these bright colors and everything. But then it also, whenever you're in like fast paced stuff, like these deep drums come in and it can get like almost like a tribal sounding thing. And then in other times when you get past like a really hard part, and that's the biggest thing is these things are like, they come in at the perfect time. Like there's this tree, this water tree, like if you ever played Ori and the Blind Forest, you know what I'm talking about. It's the hardest part of the game by a long shot, and it's not the end of it. It's like in the middle of it, and it's the hardest thing. It took me so many tries, and it's so like hectic when you're doing that, but as soon as you get out of it, it's like the most peaceful music you've ever heard in your life, and it just hits, and it's like, this is so great. You feel rewarded for going through all that with just this beautiful, beautiful like slow thing. And it's really, I can't say good enough things about Ori, and that's like one of my top study albums, like for sure, is that soundtrack. My last one, to the surprise of literally no one, I had to put, like, I tried to be creative with the other ones. Final Fantasy VII. Obviously Final Fantasy VII is like my favorite game of all time because it's just, there's so much nostalgia there. And this is definitely, I mean, there's definitely some bias in like the nostalgia and stuff, but I legitimately really do think Final Fantasy VII has one of the best soundtracks of all time for a video game, because we're talking about like the songs fitting with like what you're doing. I don't think there's a single game that does it better than this. Every single area you go to just has, it's like, obviously it was a game made in the 90s. Like what they were working with instrumentally is pretty simple. Like it's a lot of the same stuff, but they like layer these like simple little like tunes in amazing ways that just like get very emotional at the right times, and then get silly, and then get like really hectic, and then get emotional again. And every single song feels like it could be an iconic thing for any game. Like I'm going to show like Tifa's theme and the Aerith's theme, which is my two, like, they're the two like probably most common ones, but they're my two favorites. Both of those could be like different games and could be like their big things. And this is one of those things, when I hear these songs, like I'll listen to the Final Fantasy VII soundtrack when I'm having a bad day sometimes, or when something horrible happens in my life. I'll listen to these music because it's just like, it's an instant nostalgia rush, and it's just, I will never stop loving these songs so much.
Yes.
That's all I got. So Jeff,
Why did we leave me for last? My admission on here before, I don't notice music in games like as well as like these two do, and I don't definitely do not listen to soundtracks like on their own outside of it. So my choices are a little less inspired, I guess, in a way. It's kind of more like what stood out for me over the years, what is nostalgic to me.
But it's still nostalgia and music. I feel like are tied so much.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So at least with these choices, I mainly pick games, and one case kind of a series that I kind of feel that stuff with, and I kind of picked for the most part some of the most well-known songs. For the first one, I just picked Xenoblade Chronicles, just kind of in general, like that's except for X in some places. Xenoblade is kind of known for its music, like that's one of the top things for its fans. It's so epic, and I might probably end up saying this for most stuff, like a great sense of adventure. And one song that really just really fits that is the theme for Gaur Plains. Probably pronounced that wrong. It's been a while since I played that one. I didn't play Xenoblade Chronicles, the original one, all the way, but I definitely got there, and you just feel kind of emotion just going to Gaur Plains and the song just starting. You kind of feel accomplished getting to that point.
Yeah.
And it's just great. So, so people want to hear like a good, JRPG soundtrack to listen to. Xenoblade 1 and 2 would be good ones.
JRPGs always have like some of the most iconic songs.
Very like sweeping, grandiose,
orchestral stuff. Yeah.
And you can tell I like that stuff just based on my choices. We'll get there. Okay, next, Kingdom Hearts. I mean, come on.
It's a good soundtrack.
Who doesn't know Kingdom Hearts? Man?
Dude, I mean, like, Kingdom Hearts would be, again, I'm like, these are not necessarily my favorite. I'm just choosing a few, but Kingdom Hearts should be on everyone's list, whether you like Kingdom Hearts or not.
Yeah, and who doesn't know Simple and Clean and Sanctuary and all that kind of stuff? Just the main themes, and then just the songs in the games are iconic and memorable and all that kind of stuff, and fit, being in the Disney world and all that stuff, but I just have that JRPG flair.
Yeah. Sometimes I forget which one's which with a lot of Kingdom Hearts songs, but there's like some of those that just, it immediately just makes you emotional. Yeah. You hear it, and it's almost like it was scientifically engineered to make you sad. It's crazy.
Yeah. Can't remember if I mentioned earlier, I do enjoy the new theme though for T. So a little more simple and everything, but it sure will grow and will fit in there. Plus, it's probably like the ending theme, because like with Simple and Clean and Sanctuary, the ending like credits theme for those credit version of those are kind of more slower. I imagine we can get a little more, pumped up one.
And like we're saying so many times, it's like tied to the game and like tied to what you're doing, and it makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. For the song that's going to be playing, I picked the orchestra instrumental version of Simple and Clean.
Cool.
Yeah. this next one, I guess this is one that wouldn't be as many ones. I picked Dragon Quest VIII in particular. Well, not that I played too many other Dragon Quest games, but Dragon Quest VIII is one of my favorite games of all time. The soundtrack is one of those that are very memorable to me, and just kind of like Xenoblade, it just the songs fit like going on an adventure and all that stuff, just going around the wilderness and all that kind of stuff. And Overture, how much I'm remembering, it's like I think it's like the first thing you really hear. It just I feel like it's a great way to sit and sound just start the adventure, and those things you just hear throughout it.
Yeah.
Very memorable. Now, this is the weirdest pick. I picked this partly because it's different, and hey, Darby had Fire Emblem. Jacob had like Shin Megami Tensei, so I have Tokyo Mirage Sessions. The combination.
I didn't mean to run you out of Fire Emblem. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Separating it. I picked this mainly because it is different from most songs, right? Because it does have such a J-pop influence, obviously, just by the basis of the game, and I don't listen to that stuff normally, but I don't know, for a reason the game, it just fits. Like the J-poppy songs.
Because it's built around it. And it just, that's the style is all around.
Yeah, even then they have more what you would expect it's a combination of Shin Megami Tensei and Fire Emblem. Of course, it's going to have great music. Like just, the battle themes and all that
with
stuff.
Those
are great.
two,
Obviously, there's some stuff that just... There would be some songs that kind of references those series. So you get the nostalgia effect from that. So soundtrack's great. Tokyo Mirage Sessions is so underrated in general.
壊したい大事そうに抱えた私を全部君がこの孤独を痛みを癒すの消えてしまいたい眠らない街のざわめき愛想笑いの憂鬱本音なんていつかどこか見えないふりだねだって不安なんてそんな言われなくても分かってる壊したい大事そうに抱えた強がりなんてでも素直になれない迷っても悩んでも君が求めるならせめてこの孤独を痛みを壊して生まれ変わりたい青い空は窮屈に上辺だけを映し出すこの未来をずっとぼやかしてる曖昧に繋がる世界は深い傷さえ嘲笑うどれくらい苦しめばいいのもう泣けばいい
I forgot to put the name, but my last one, this shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. We're double dipping with Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy X. This is the game I probably played most as when I was younger, so obviously it's music left an impression on me. Like anytime I hear, especially in the big things like the nostalgia and emotion, all that stuff, especially in in Zanarkand or whatever.
To Zanarkand,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, heck, I played that game so late, and I still get emotional. I still feel. I feel like when I hear To Zanarkand, I start feeling like the feelings of nostalgia. But I'm like, I played that game in 2015. Why do I feel? That's not nostalgia, but yeah. No, and growing up, that was Jeff. Me and Jeff identified ourselves as his favorite Final Fantasy was Final Fantasy X. Mine was 7. So it's just that's how you did those things.
So it is one of those things. Those were both Final Fantasies we both played first.
Yeah, that's usually how these things work.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have anything else before we sign out?
Super Smash Brothers, great soundtrack.
Oh, I mean, yes, obviously. I mean, The Last of Us, BioShock Infinite, all these.
Yeah.
I mean, they're amazing for their games. They're amazing.
That Super Mario Kart 8 title song.
Oh yeah, that's pretty
so
iconic.
good.
Yeah. I mean, and it's so recent that it feels weird to say it, but I mean, Jump Up Superstar. I mean, let's go.
Special
Dude.
shout out to the Kid Icarus Uprising soundtrack. Amazing.
I wouldn't know because I couldn't get through its garbage controls to get to
It's
the,
great,
get to the
Darby.
good
It's
soundtrack.
great.
And I just couldn't do it. Well, thank you guys so much for listening to the Nerds at Large Gaming Podcast. Make sure to check us out next week. We have Let's Plays on YouTube now. We finished Life is Strange Before the Storm, did all those spoiler casts.
Will we talk about the Switch a whole lot next week? Maybe.
Probably. I mean, we would be doing it anyway, but it is a year after the Switch. So
Year review.
Yeah.
Either next week
How
or the
did
week
the
after.
Switch do? And
Yeah.
it's time for its yearly report.
You think it did well?
I think it might have done all right. Yeah, I think it did okay.
Yeah, I heard it. Yeah,
I heard it did
sold a
bad.
few copies.
Yeah.
You know?
Bye, you guys.